Hi everyone, I'm Rincey and this is Rincey Reads. Today I'm going to be doing a graphic novel review talking about Boxers and Saints by Luen Yang. This came out last year and it was on the top of a lot of people's best of 2013 lists, and not even just the best of like graphic novels, but like the best of the best for the entire year. So I was very much looking forward to reading this series. In February I read American Born Chinese, which I believe was his first graphic novel. I liked that one, but I didn't quite love it so much, so I went into this with slightly lowered expectations than I might have previously, but honestly I really enjoyed this graphic novel series. This is sort of like a historical fiction graphic novel. It covers the Boxer Rebellion, which took place in China in the late 1800s. Boxers covered Little Bao and obviously the Boxer side of the rebellion. You see Little Bao basically from childhood and then growing up and joining the rebellion, being trained as sort of like a rebel fighter. In case you guys don't know very much about the Boxer Rebellion, basically it took place with one side being the Boxers, who were native Chinese people who, you know, believed in the usual Chinese customs and the usual Chinese gods. And then on the other side were basically Europeans and Chinese natives who had converted to Christianity. This side follows the Boxer side of the story, and this side follows the Saints or Christian side of the story. Luen Yang does some really interesting things with this graphic novel series. First of all, he provides a lot of really great information about the Boxer Rebellion. I had just like a very basic knowledge of the rebellion. I didn't really know that much about it. I think I just learned about it very generally, very quickly, like my freshman year or sophomore year of high school during our world history class, whatever that horrible class is that you just have to learn about all of the cultures that aren't European or American, which is just so dumb. But anyways, that's a rant for a different time. Yang does a really good job of talking about the rebellion. He kind of just assumes that you don't know anything about it, which is the perfect way I think to go about it, because this provides you with some really good background without also being really dry. He also does a really good job of presenting the way Chinese culture was during this time period. Personally, I think he also does a really good job of explaining both sides of the story. Obviously, with both volumes, he's able to explore why people would choose one side over the other, and he doesn't make one side look better than the other, which in the beginning I was a little bit hesitant about, because Boxer starts off with a slightly anti-Christian slant to it, but that's because you're coming from that native's viewpoint, and then by the end of the entire series you will feel like everyone was just horrible and made bad decisions during this entire rebellion, and there was really no right way or good way. One thing that is noticeable from just the pure size of these volumes, Boxers is significantly larger than Saints. I think Boxers is almost twice the size of Saints, and there is a little bit of a reason for that, one of them being that you get the majority of the backstory and the history behind what's happening here in Boxers, so you don't really need that repeated in Saints. But at the same time, in Saints you are reading the story of this young girl named Flor, or Viviana as she eventually becomes to be called, and I think her character was really interesting, and you don't really see very much about her, or it feels like you are kind of rushing through her story, while as with Little Bao you see a significant amount of his life and very specific details about things that have happened, so it feels a slightly off balance, especially because their stories do intersect, but not in the way that you think it might, or at least not in the way that I thought it was going to. I was looking at some of the reviews on Goodreads, as I tend to do after I read a book, and I just kind of want to see how other people are reacting to it, and apparently some people are reading these books separately, or they're reading them not in order, which I very much discourage you guys from doing. If you're going to read this graphic novel series, read them together and read Boxers first and read Saints second. Like, that is how it's meant to be read, because there is sort of epilogue at Saints that makes a huge difference in how you view this entire story. Like, reading the epilogue made me want to reread the story again with a slightly changed viewpoint, so it definitely needs to be read together. there, and it definitely needs to be read, Boxers and then Saints. In the end, I gave this graphic novel series a 4 out of 5, and I enjoyed this so much more than I enjoyed American Born Chinese. If you saw my review for that one, I was a little bit ambivalent, I would say, towards American Born Chinese. Like, I could understand the importance of it and why so many people loved it, but it didn't really hit home for me. This one definitely hit home. I can completely understand why so many people considered it one of their favorite books of 2013. I also think this would be a really interesting graphic novel series for a history teacher, especially if you do like Asian studies or Asian history. I feel like it would be a benefit to teens and kids to read this to sort of have a deeper understanding of that culture and history. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Boxers and Saints. If you have read this graphic novel series, feel free to leave your comments down below letting me know what you thought of it. If you haven't, or you have any questions, you can always leave those comments down below as well. So yeah, that's all I have for now, and thanks for watching.